Hello, I'm Rick Steiner, and welcome to another episode of Lux Life Discovered. My co-host today is Shannon Richmond with the Panama City Beach Chamber of Commerce. So welcome, Shannon.
Thanks, Rick. I always love doing these.
Oh, we've got a great one today too, because this is going to be something that I'm wanting to learn more about. So our guests today are Amy Skye and Marc Jordan, and they are singer-songwriters, and so much going on right now. It's going to be fun to hear their background,
Oh, yeah.
what they have accomplished, and what there's some great projects in the works. And so, Amy, let's start with you. So, kind of give us your background and tell us a little about yourself.
Well, I was born in Toronto. I'm a classically trained musician. Moved to Nashville, Tennessee when I was 22, and then lived in Los Angeles for many years. That's where I met Marc, who's also a singer-songwriter. We happened to both be from Toronto, but we met in Los Angeles and have very separate writing and recording careers. But every once in a while, we do something together.
Oh,
And there's a really neat story about how our trips to 30A from Toronto contributed to our one and only duet album that we put out last year. So that was my last album release, and right now I'm working on writing a Broadway musical.
Wow.
And Marc has an album coming out, which he'll tell you about. And we have two grown children who are also both singer-songwriters. Our son Ezra lives in Nashville. Our daughter Zoe lives in Los Angeles. So
kind of combining everything from the past.
wow.
Well, that's great. So, tell us about the duet album. You want to go ahead and start with that?
Sure. So Marc and we both put out many solo albums. Most of our performing careers have happened in Canada, but we've also written for lots and lots of people around the world, like very famous American stars who you will know, and Marc can tell you about, some of the big hits he's had around the world. And we never wanted to work together because so many reasons. I mean, I could do a whole interview on that, but nothing to do with the fact that we don't love and respect each other. We're just kind of we actually like writing with the same people, but we kind of fill the same role in a writing collaboration. So they don't need both of us, one or the other, but we are each other's biggest fans. And from the very earliest days, we actually met in the recording studio. Our voices have always sounded amazing together.
Oh.
And for fun over the years, we've done a little touring together. We've done some recording together. We'll write together, but only to keep it fun. Because, I like Marc to come home at the end of the day and complain about his day at work. And I don't want that to be me he's complaining about.
Good call.
Yeah.
Good call.
So, but our record label up in Canada was like, you guys, everybody knows your separate careers, and you've done so little together. We think that your fans would love to hear a duets album. So we decided to start on it. Believe it or not, in 2014, we bought our place on 30A in 2012. And we started, so when you drive down from Toronto, you go through Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
So not only would we, the first thing we would do is when we were in the car, we would listen to all kinds of stuff, like our songs, other people's, looking for those magical songs that made a great duet, because that's very, very different from singing a solo song. And we found some great covers. We found some originals. We wrote some originals. Then we'd stop in Nashville. We'd do some recording. Then we'd go to 30A and hang out. And then we'd do the same thing on the way home and the way back. So when we think about how did we discover, and then we did it for 7 years. So
Wow.
we only did like a couple of songs a year. Like I said, we just wanted to keep it fun.
Oh.
And we did, and really ended up recording some amazing tracks in Nashville. And you all know that, we know about 30A because of our musician friends in Nashville. That so many musicians come from Nashville to 30A. And that's really how it happened. And we spent a lot of time working out harmonies in the car on those long drives from Cracker Barrel to Cracker Barrel.
That's great. Yeah. Well, I tell you what, that's interesting. And Nashville is such a fun town. It's changed so much over the years, but there are some parts of it that still remain the same. And a lot of people think that, that Nashville is just country music. There's all different types of music in Nashville. And that was one of the biggest surprises for me.
Yeah, and the players, they're some of the top caliber studio musicians and live musicians in the world. And
Right.
actually, I want to say our album is called He Sang, She Sang, and I meant to have one to lift up and show you. But if anyone is listening and
He
want to find
said,
out
she
about it,
said. I
Yeah.
love
no,
that.
no, it's He Sang, She
Oh,
Sang.
Oh, he
he
sang,
sang, she
she
sang,
sang.
yeah.
Okay.
Which means
okay.
he said, she said, yeah.
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 I'll pop it.
And we have our website's called he sang she sang.live. And
Aw.
we just really, they helped the musicians and the arrangers in Nashville really helped us create the sound for the record. Because as you say, it's not just country. My stuff is a little more Americana. Mark's stuff is a little more jazz influenced. And we found musicians that helped us find like a way to blend those two styles in Nashville because they're just so damn good. Those players are just a delight. It's a thrill to record in Nashville.
So Mark, tell us a little about your background then, because it's you guys, and you've got an award that's coming up for, or you're nominated for an award, right? So let's.
Am I?
We
We just had our what is equivalent to the Grammys here.
Okay,
up in
okay.
California. Yeah, so I was
Yeah.
nominated for that. But
the duet album, yeah, was nominated for Best Adult Contemporary Album. That he
Okay,
sang,
yeah.
she sang. Yeah.
He sang,
Yeah.
she sang. I love that.
My dad was a classical singer, and so I grew up around music big time my entire life, and he loved all kinds of music. He loved folk music. He loved classical music. He loved just about. He loved like Ella and Sinatra and all those people. So he played that around the house, and I guess by osmosis, I kind of picked some of it
Well, you picked it up very well, obviously.
up.
So,
Thank you.
so being a singer-songwriter, how do you? I think. Well, first of all, I have no talent, musical talent, so that blows my mind anyway. But
Well, that's a good start.
that's a good. Well, but like when you're writing, when you're okay, I guess like when you're writing for other people, of course you don't write the songs necessarily for other people. I guess you do, actually you do write for other people, but when you're writing a song initially, how do you know if you're writing it for something you want or you think it would be good for someone else to sing?
I there are different kinds of ways of doing that business, and there are people that are very good at, if someone says, such and such a singer is looking for a song, they can go, all right, and they write that song. But I was never like that. I always pretend, or not pretend, but I always start out thinking the song is for me.
Okay.
And that's the only way I can make it truthful and sort of rooted in some kind of experience that the listener will get, So my publishers were very smart, and they figured that out with me early on. And so they just let me write. And then I would hand in my songs, and then they would shop them to, Donna Ross or Cher or Rod Stewart or whoever, and I started getting covers that way.
How
Interesting.
cool is
Yeah.
that?
So
Yeah.
who was your first major artist that
Donna Ross.
really, okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
And I knew she was cutting the song, but I didn't know it was going to be a single. And it's called Pieces of Ice, and it was years ago. And those days I lived in Hollywood, just up in the canyon, and I had an old Oldsmobile convertible, 1968 Oldsmobile with a torn top and just a mess.
Proud of it.
And I'm literally driving down Hollywood Boulevard, and I hear Diana Ross singing my songs. I absolutely couldn't believe it. I had to pull over.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
What an
Yeah.
awesome feeling, though, hearing your song for somebody singing it. And that was
Yeah.
your very first one.
Yeah.
And does that feeling is it the same over and over every time you hear someone else sing one of your songs?
You know, I've been very lucky. I've had wonderful singers sing my songs. And I got to tell you, I don't think I've been disappointed with any of the versions that they've done. They've just been terrific.
Oh,
So when you write songs and then you hear somebody sing, like you're talking about a different version,
Mhm.
is that
Well, everybody has their own style.
right?
You know.
Right, yeah. So how did I guess that is a good question then. I know you're not disappointed, but do you ever hear somebody sing a style in a style that you're like, I never thought about it like that?
Well, none of them have done it radically different, but my first, I've had a couple of covers on Rhythm of My Heart, and the first guy to do it, no kidding, was like a karaoke singer, I think, from a French karaoke singer who lived in Holland,
Okay.
and I got that version, and I thought, "Yeesh, not great." But but then Rod did it, and it was great.
how?
That's interesting.
So how do your songs get out there? You write them and give them to your publicist, and then he says, "Oh, so and so's looking for a song. Why don't you listen to this one or try this one?" Is that how it
Well,
works?
the publisher, you hand in
Your homework.
your homework,
Yeah.
and they listen to them, and and that's their job, to connect another artist with a song that they believe that this artist can have a hit with.
Man.
And some of them are very good at doing that, and some aren't, but worked out for Amy and I anyway.
But when the right artist comes with the right song,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
right. I just can't even imagine. Yeah. So, Amy, what about you? What's one of your greatest moments that stand out for you?
Well, I mean, my very first song that I had recorded in Nashville was done by a young 25-year-old redhead from Oklahoma who was putting out her first major label album, and her name was Reba McEntire.
Golly.
Yeah.
She was not a star at that point, but I mean, she was, for me, I was like 22 and somebody wanted to do one of my songs. I was thrilled. And I got to actually hang out with her, and we were a little bit friendly back in the day, including we were both in Los Angeles at one time when she was hosting. We had the same manager, and when she was hosting the Academy of Country Music Awards, and I took her to shop in Beverly Hills, like kind of like when Julia Roberts went shopping, in Pretty Woman, and I helped her. She had never shopped in like a proper dress shop, like a fancy dress shop,
Right.
and she was so intimidated. I helped her pick out a gown for the Academy of Country Music Awards.
Aw.
That's
It was sweet, but really, I think my biggest relationship with an artist that's not myself is a very long-term relationship with Olivia Newton-John, who I first wrote with when I was living in LA in 1987, and then we reconnected actually in about 2004. We had stayed in touch, but we just hadn't worked together for a long time, and we started doing projects together, and I actually started producing the records, not just writing the songs with her, which very few people know, that not many women produce records. It's kind of like there's not many women movie directors. It's not that they can't, just that they don't, nobody asks them, and they don't think to ask. But Olivia's such a generous person, and we were really close friends, and she loved the way I got her voice to sound in the studio, and we wrote amazing stuff together. And I produced about 7 or 8 projects with her, and then the last one we did, very ironically, we recorded it in 2014 and put it out in 2016. It was a trio with me and Olivia and another writer named Beth Nielsen Chapman, who actually just played at the 30A Songwriting Festival in January.
Oh.
And it was an album of songs about loss and grief. And because Olivia's sister had died in 2013. And my mother had just passed away, and Beth had lost her husband. So it was like a girl group, and we made a record. We made a group called Olivia, Beth, and Amy, and the album was called Live On. And we toured it in Canada, the US, the United Kingdom. And the very last day of the tour, Olivia was re-diagnosed with cancer. And it was, just crazy. She'd been cancer-free for 30 years. And so this was kind of, in such a crazy way, it was like her way of coming to terms with her own mortality and giving people messages of hope. The album was called Live On. And at her funeral in last September, her husband asked me to perform some of the songs from that album. And he in fact shared a video of her singing from one of our concerts. He opened the funeral service with her singing a song we'd written together called Grace and Gratitude, which was really how she felt about her gratitude for having survived cancer the first time. And she truly appreciated every single day. She was one of the most grateful, generous people. And Marc knows, he actually started a film with her. And she just had this amazing, generous, life-affirming attitude. And so that's a really significant body of work. I'm really, really proud of the material that we created together.
Wow, that's interesting.
Oh, absolutely.
So do you guys ever sit around at night sometime and start talking and then try to one-up each other with your connections who you work with?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Whenever Marc's in the doghouse, he reminds me, Cher, Bette Midler, Joe Cocker, and he reminds me that he sold more records than me, and
And
it worked.
And it stays with you, obviously.
Absolutely.
Listen to him. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting because, like I said, this is just like hearing who you've worked with, the way you've done, what you've accomplished is just really impressive. But then you're not finished. What's ahead for you?
Well, Marc, why don't you talk about this album, which is it's not even out yet. It's coming out April 21st.
He's like, it's not out yet.
But two singles are out. Two singles are out, and I'm holding the cover.
Oh,
here.
okay. Yeah, I mean, it's a song. Mostly songs of mine, and there it is, right there. And it's part of it's done with like it's sort of on the jazzy side of life.
Okay.
And we had Randy Brecker played trumpet on it, and we used the Prague Symphony on some songs, and so it's a very nice sounding record, beautiful sounding record actually.
And it comes out April 21st.
Yeah, I'm free.
And Amy, the reason he has more sales is because you're there in the background cheering him on.
No, he has more sales of songs he's written for other people.
Okay.
Hey, we're not even going to go there. We're not. I'm totally.
I'm not very good at social media. I'll admit it. But my wife is all over it, and one thing leads to another.
That's true. Yeah, that's great.
So are you guys in 30A right now, or are you in Toronto?
Toronto.
We're in Toronto. I'm usually in 30A. I hunker down there January, February, March.
Okay.
And March comes and goes.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking of all the stuff we've written in 30A. We actually recorded vocals on our duet album. We had our engineer drive down from Toronto, and we set up a studio in our house and did a lot of the vocals for the He Sang, She Sang album. I wrote one of the songs, one of my favorite songs, and I think, Marc, one of your favorite songs for the He Sang, She Sang album is a song called I'll Give You Wings, which I wrote with Vince Gill's piano player, John Jarvis, and he drove down from Nashville to come work with me in 38. It is never hard to get people to come down to
Oh,
38.
yeah,
right,
yeah.
right. Come to the beach. Okay.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
So
I've had my whole, I'm working on a Broadway musical now called Beyond, and I've had my whole writing team come down at different times and work on it there. And it's, and I personally, actually, I'm a big fan of yoga, and I go to Balance 30A and Mist. Those are the two yoga studios I go to. And that's actually was the inspiration for one of my albums called Namaste, which is Sanskrit mantras for yoga class. And I wrote almost the whole album on 30A. And the cover of the album is a picture I took on my iPhone of the beach.
Oh,
And those are some of the best yoga I've ever been to is on 38. I don't know. I think people are just laid back and kind of spiritual, and
it's Florida. You're on the
Yeah.
beach.
yeah.
well, and that's how the podcast originated, because I just amazing the amount of talent and people from so many different areas that are here and living their passion. And, it's kind of fun to be able to talk to people who come down, whether it's to retire at different ages or whatever it may be, but just the energy and the renewal spirit they have here. So it makes it a very interesting area for sure.
I am convinced, and I've run this theory by a lot of people, and maybe you know more than I do, the sand on the beach, because it's white, it comes from white quartz, I've been told. There's a special energy. Like, I've written so many songs walking along that beach. I write when I walk anyway, but there's just something about that beach. I actually shot a video on the beach, a song of mine called Taking You With Me. And we got one of those, companies that sets up a bonfire for you. And
Right.
this was in 2012, I think, maybe even the first year, 2013. And our kids are in the video, Mark's in the video. And that beach I'm just going to say it's a spiritual place. For me, that beach is a spiritual place. I don't know what it is, but there's an energy there. It's like a vortex.
Well, that's neat. Yeah. Well, we're glad you guys were down in 38 a lot of the year. So you say there's a big Nashville connection with the musicians and artists that are in 38, and that's how you became familiar with the area?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a friend, Eddie Schwartz, who is a songwriter in Nashville, and he, I guess, was driving around. He was driving around the coast, and he just stumbled upon this area, and and he loved it, and he told us about it, and we came down and we loved it. And
it's really it's a well-known area, but at the same time, it's still kind of a hidden part of the coast, because most people think South Florida is warmer and nicer, but man, the beaches here are the best in Florida.
Yeah,
because of the white sand. But it's just it's kind of a melting pot of so many different artists, recording artists, whether painters, musicians.
yeah, a lot of painters.
Yeah, and so it's kind of fun to come down, and when you become a part of that, it's just fun to experience it, and it motivates you to want to do more too. So, and as far as writing, I can see where that would be very inspiring with all the nature and then just all the creative minds. I can see that being a huge plus.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
If we're walking on the beach and you start to create,
We know we're in
I'm
trouble.
going to have to.
It would be the same effect if I did it.
No.
So,
Well, but I think we're talking about creating, like writing something from nothing, but I think you walk along the beach and you're thinking about a problem, or I think people just, do you know what I mean? It clears your
Absolutely.
mind.
right, yes, definitely.
Let it go out with the waves.
Yeah.
Just go. Yeah.
So when will you guys be back in the area? Do you have any events planned here locally?
We
Not till next year.
Yeah,
That's
we know
actually
we've come down a couple of times in the fall, but usually our schedules, fall is a big touring time up in Canada, concerts. So I know Mark's doing a big tour this fall. So we probably will just, we'll just be there in the winter. But then we, like everybody else, we rent our house out for the rest of the year, so
Right.
we can afford to be there for 3 months.
There you go. Well, I'll tell you what, when you're back at some point, I'd welcome the opportunity to meet you guys. And so I'll definitely be keeping up with you and going to listen to your music more. And this has been great because one of the reasons I've told Shannon before that I wanted to do the podcast is not only to showcase all the artists and the talent, but I love to learn. So,
Yeah.
this is something totally out of my norm. And so it's fun to hear your perspective on it. And not just that you're singer-songwriters, but you've done it and you're successful, and the major, artists with whom you've worked. And it's just fun to see somebody still so grounded that you can visit with and have fun with.
Well, thank you, Rick. And it has occurred to me that it would be great for Mark and I to actually do a concert in maybe in Seaside sometime. And I just when I come down there, it's like my creative retreat. And I don't really think about that, but I saw a poster when I was there, and I was like, you know what? This would probably be a great venue for us. So if you know any concert promoters that want to have us talk to us about putting on a show there, we'd love it.
All right, don't say it unless you mean it, because I will start.
Oh, 100%.
All right, good.
100% we'll meet it. As long as it's not during the summer.
Right.
Really,
Nothing out
I hear
during the
it's
summer.
really hot
Oh,
in
it
the
is.
summer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everybody leaves in the summer that's local. No, I'm just kidding.
That's awesome.
Well, I'll tell you what, I have thoroughly enjoyed it. Thanks for your time today. It's been great talking with both of you. And like I said, I look forward to meeting you in person. And Shannon, anything before we?
No, I've just been like, it's been
I know.
thank you. It's just been so awesome listening to you guys and hearing more about what you do.
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't say you can find all of our music on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Amy Sky Music, Marc Jordan Music, certainly Spotify, iTunes, all of those channels.
Oh, I can't wait.
You can listen to us on your iPhones when you're walking on the beach in 38.
Yeah, I love it.
All right.
I can't
Well,
wait.
good deal. Well, thank
Check out Lux Life Discovered on Facebook and Instagram and on 30a.tv. See you next time on Lux Life Discovered.
Thank you.